Welcome back to Lower Keys Living, everybody. Hope you had a fantastic Labor Day weekend and got some good water time. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks since I had a video out. We had a week of really stormy, heavy lightning storms, just not conducive for good boating. And then last weekend, we were taking our oldest daughter off to her freshman year in college up in Washington, D.C., but back at it. We're out here at American Shoals Lighthouse. I'll explain this in a little bit, but just one of my favorite lobster grounds. Loads of rock piles out here. That boat, they're lobstering out on the coral reef at about 15, 20 feet of water GS south of the lighthouse. But just a great location. But this week, I'm going to take you along. Went out and visited a dozen or so different of my favorite lobster spots, just to see how well they survived the two mini seasons, the opening of regular season, and just see how many lobsters were left. Just checking on the overall health of the lobster population, because it's super successful week down here, a couple of weeks of lobster season. I've heard lots of reports of people getting good lobsters, but I wanted to see what was left in some of my favorite spots. You can see the two sharks swimming here in the video in the top center of the screen. So always interesting out here, but this is a great place to come and check out lobstering, and plus a beautiful place to take your visitors and friends out to the lighthouse. So I'm going to jump into a couple of slides to show you where I went and give you a rundown of what I found. Thanks for joining us. Alright, so I'm going to go through and show you some of the places, and gosh, there are over a dozen places we checked out this weekend, just looking to see what happens with mini season, the launch of regular lobster season. Wanted to see what kind of shape some of my favorite lobster spots are in, and some of these are super popular, so they do get hit pretty hard, especially mini season, the opening weekend of regular season. So went back out this weekend, Labor Day weekend, to check spots out. So I'm going to just go through some of these here, and then I'll show you some video footage from a number of these, but I want to give you an idea of where these places are if you haven't been down here before, but just how many places and how expansive it is down here for lobstering. And again, I've got 40 or 50 plus different places that I usually have good luck lobstering. These are just a few. Some of them aren't super well known, a lot of them are, but I'll go through these. So starting out, American Shoals, that's the lighthouse straight south of Cudjoe and Sugarloaf Key. And I'll give you a little photo of this here in a second, but a great spot, and I'll show you why here in a minute. The Pelican Shoals, there's a couple of reefs just to the west of the actual Pelican Shoals. They're great for holding lobsters, so went out there. It's about 6 miles west of American Shoals. Washerwoman, this whole area in here is covered with little spotty patch reefs, big balmy coral heads. So you got to travel around a little bit on your boat and look for those, but a great spot to check out. And when I went out here on Saturday, those were pretty well full. I was surprised they weren't hit up. So saw a number of lobsters in there. Back in American Shoals, it had been pretty cleaned out. I saw maybe 2 or 3 keeper-sized lobsters. Pelican Shoals, the reef just to the east, so that was loaded with lobsters. Doesn't look like anybody touched that at all, or it's refilled nicely. There's a number of patch reefs off of Sugarloaf Key. We didn't stop there because I've gotten some emails from some of our subscribers that have been out there, and they've been having some good luck on those patch reefs, so it was nice to see those are still going strong this weekend. Then the area Coupon Bight right off of Little Palm Island, Big Pine Key, this whole stretch on the south, that whole long stretch there where Coupon Bight Aquatic Preserve, went down there. The bigger coral heads, smaller patch reefs that are in there, those were worked over pretty good. I saw maybe 1 or 2 undersized lobsters on those, but the further east I worked, looking at some of the holes and ledges that are in there, there were still some lobsters in there, so really nice to see that. Sawyer Key, the little bay in here between these keys, is super popular. It gets packed, and we dove, my daughters and I, we dove in there for a good hour or so. I think we saw maybe 1 keeper lobsters, quite a few undersized lobsters still in there, but that place gets hit hard. And then over to Content Keys, I've got a couple of little coral heads, big balmies in there. I'll show you some video footage of those. Those looked pretty nice. Lots of big lobsters in there. Again, we didn't bring our catching gear out on this trip. We were just going around to see what things look like and kind of get out and explore. And then I've also got some video footage. The whole area in here is scattered with some large coral heads. Those are usually really good for having lobsters underneath. A couple of those that are really well known that are marked on charts were hit and didn't really find too many lobsters keeper size under those. And those some of my favorite places to lobster on. So I've got some of those secret spots, so I just drop those coral heads in there. But if you can find them, they are scattered throughout the backcountry here, and really good for lobstering. And yeah, and seeing all kinds of fish in there. So it's kind of an overview of all the places we hit. We put some miles on the boat this weekend, both the center console and the flats boat, and just enjoyed getting out. So I'm gonna go on from here. So American Shoals Lighthouse, I'll show you a video of this. People come out here and they'll snorkel at the lighthouse quite a bit, but the whole area out here, you can see on the right side of the picture, there's loads of rock piles scattered out. So don't just focus at the lighthouse, but get out and snorkel around this area. There's lots of rock piles around that do pretty well holding lobsters. And you can see at the bottom of the picture, you can see the coral reef starting, those fingers. That's in 15 to 20 feet of water, so a little deeper. If you're a good free diver, great spots for lobstering. But the whole area here, don't limit yourself just to the lighthouse. Get out, drive, go slow, especially if you got a nice calm day. You can see you'll be able to spot rock piles, and the whole area is surrounded by grass flats. So lobsters come in, they'll hide in those rock piles at night and then head up to those grass flats for feeding. Or vice versa, they're under the rock piles during the day and on those grass flats feeding at night. But again, American Shoals, one of my favorite spots. And there were no lobsters at all underneath the lighthouse. A few of the scattered rock piles that I've marked on my GPS, a few hundred yards away from the lighthouse, all were holding lobsters. So that was looking pretty good. Another spot that wasn't on that list on that first slide, this is the bow channel bridge, but almost all the bridges, and I've pointed these out in some other videos, these on-ramps to the bridges or these leads out, you can see they're all built on these piles of rocks with the state brought in tons and tons of these rocks and then built the road on top of those before the bridges. And you can see in here, you can clearly see the rock piles in here. These are always great lobster spots all along. Just this particular one, bow channel bridge, you don't want to get too close to the bridge if you're not a strong swimmer at mid-tides, because the current does flow under the bridge pretty well. But almost every bridge has places like this if you look close enough. This particular one I frequent because it's so close for me to get out to on the flats boat and get in there. And this is one of those places where I just use my snare. I don't use a tickle stick and net. Just the way the rocks are, if you can tickle a lobster out and you got to drop a net on them, they can just slide back in. So many different holes in these rocks. So just go with my snare right here. But another place to check out. And we did come over here actually just this morning. We took the dogs out to the sandbar. We just drove over this. And just sitting in the boat, literally saw dozens of lobsters in here. A lot of them looking really good size. So just a nice place to go. So I'm going to jump into some more video footage of what we took. But all in all, there's still a lot of really good quality lobstering to do. So if you're coming down making a fall or winter trip, there's still plenty of lobster around. I was really pleased to see how many and how abundant the lobsters were out there. So let's just jump into some video footage. So this is the area out around Sawyer Key. There's a little bay in between these two little keys out here that has some great lobstering, lots of big holes scattered around, and you can see probably a dozen or so boats out here. Somewhat mid-morning here, Labor Day weekend, but people out here lobstering already. We got on the water out here, found a lot of tiny lobsters, did not see any keepers in this area, but just still nice to come on out here, and I was happy to see that there were plenty of smaller lobsters that'll fill in, and they'll grow out by the end of the season and make it worthwhile coming back out here as those lobsters grow and get a little bit bigger. Now from here we shot over just east of here are the content keys. There's a long shelf between here and the content keys that's great for lobstering. Here is a couple of those balmies. I'm going to show you two of these back to back here. Just big coral heads, great lobstering. There's one or two that are marked on charts, and then I found just searching around probably a dozen or so others like this. But these, some of my favorite places for catching lobsters are in these seagrass beds coming out. But this one, this second one in particular, is usually packed with lobsters. But again, this is one of the ones that I think a lot of people know about. But on a given day, a couple months from now, once they fill back in, you can come out here and these crevices underneath these, there'll be easily 30, 40 lobsters packed into just one of these giant coral heads out here. But I really like looking for these, searching around, but again, not a single one in here today. And this was the Sunday of Labor Day weekend that we were out here on this one. Lots of small fish. Probably got fished pretty hard because there's usually some really big mangrove snapper hanging around this one. Didn't see any of those at all either. But if you can find these, typically great lobstering. I'll probably come back out here November, December, water cools down, and these will be filled back in nicely with lobsters. And also fun, just check out and see what's out here. Kids love snorkeling around these. So lots of free. It's like a little mini ecosystem all on its own. It's rare. It's so unusual to see these out here in the middle of these grass beds when you can find them. So keep an eye out for these, and great to check out for lobster. Some of the bays I was actually happy to see. Probably came across 30 or 40 nice stone crabs throughout the different bays when we were out exploring. I just grabbed that one just to get a video of it, but plenty of stone crab. It's not stone crab season right now. And then just explored around. Here's an old tire rim found, a couple of little tiny below keeper size lobsters. And because those are man-made debris, you would not be allowed to take lobsters from these anyway. But I want to record what I was saying, just a couple of little tiny guys in there, so they've honestly been picked. Here's one of my pet peeves, and this is not the visitors and tourists, but the locals put these PVC pipes out. You can tell that one had been cleaned out, and you can see that white line. This one had been emptied somewhat recently, because you get those white lines when it's laying on the bottom. So that one had been disturbed, flipped over, so somebody pulled all the lobsters out of that one. Here is another one that it's a smaller piece that my daughter spotted. We're out here paddling, and you can see this one has not been disturbed, and it's just packed with tiny little lobsters. So it was nice to see there's so many lobsters on here, but again, I hate seeing these. I do mark these on my GPS and then give those to FWC. They'll come through and clean these out every once in a while. Or occasionally you've seen I will pull all these PVC pipes out of the water and just dump those. Here's another spot. So inside the bay, these got hit pretty hard. This particular ledge on this channel, one of my favorite places to lobster, usually holds tons. You can see dozens and dozens of lobster antennas sticking out of these ledges. There wasn't a single one in here, so that got pretty hard. And this is just an example of an illegally dumped lobster pile, the people in the houses here. So again, these are not our tourists and visitors. These are people that live here that create these piles to create their own little lobsters environment, so it makes it easier for them to catch lobsters. This is one that I marked for FWC to come pull out. But all in all, great weekend. I'm really happy to see how many lobsters are out and about. Still plenty of good keeper sizes out there. And it's always a good day when we can finish up with the dolphins swimming alongside the boat. This particular guy followed us for a good 15-20 minutes just playing tag off the front of the boat. So really nice. It was a good, exciting way to finish Labor Day weekend. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week on Lower Keys Living.